today.
Okay.
No,
Well, we got some other business.
actually, I am on the phone. So thank you, Councilmember Shade.
Good. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
I'm muting. Okay.
That's a mighty powerful thing, to mute button. Well, we're waiting for the mayor. And before we get to the municipal court, we got a bunch of stuff to take care of anyhow. So
Councilman Shade, the mayor should be coming on any second now.
I see he's logging in, looks like. There's the mayor. All right, so Madam Clerk, we're up on YouTube.
Yes, sir, we are.
And we have a quorum present.
We do.
So I'm gonna go ahead and call the November 9th, 2020 meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. I'm gonna ask Councilmember Seekings if you would be so kind to either lead us in a prayer or a moment of silence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. As we travel through these difficult and uncertain times, let us all rejoice in the brothership and sisterhood of being a community. Let us work as one to make us as good as we can possibly be, recognizing there's always hard work to do. For those that stand in judgment of others, may wisdom be bounded upon their heads in great wealth, and they do the work of our city as the citizens come before them. In these and others, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well done. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. So committee members, I think you should have a copy of the October 8th, 2020 minutes, and I'll entertain a motion to
Move for approval.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. Minutes have been approved. First thing, we annually have an update from one of the most wonderful programs in the criminal justice system, I think, Turning Leaf. With that, Amy, introduction.
Thank you. Fantastic introduction.
Well, we appreciate the work that you do, and we always like to hear from you on an annual basis of what's going on with your program. If you can give us some statistics on that, that will help us out a little bit as we go forward. So,
Sure.
Turning Leaf.
Okay. Quick update for me. I think everybody knows we work with people coming out of prison. We target the people who have the highest risk of rearrest. So those folks are typically rearrested at rates between 50 and 80% coming out of prison. So we are going to work with 50 people out of prison this year, meaning we provided really intense behavioral therapy. We hired all of them to work in our screen printing business. We hired 50 guys out of prison this year and are going to put them on jobs in the community after they complete the program. So this year we are on track to sell $230,000 on our screen printing business. We launched a retail line of our print shop, which means you can go on our website and anybody around the world can order a t-shirt from us and one of our men will print it and we'll ship it to them. We launched that during COVID when we could not print in bulk. Nobody was ordering bulk order t-shirts from us. So we did a little pivot there. We are continuing to get national recognition for the work that we're doing here in Charleston. We have a group from Baltimore that's going to come down at the end of the month and look at us as a potential program design that they want to replicate in Baltimore. And we are also planning on replicating a second site in Columbia next year. So we just went ahead and pulled the trigger on hiring a consulting firm that's going to be helping us raise money to open a second site in Columbia next year and potentially a third site in the upstate, possibly in Greenville the year behind that. Our recidivism rates have continued to be really stable. They are at 20%. So for our guys, that's really fantastic. That's any rearrest at all. So like I said, our guys are typically getting rearrested between 50 and 80%, and we're down to 20. Looking at doing an evaluation of the program in the next couple of years so we can officially become an evidence-based model of reentry. That's my update.
Well, I'm gonna open it up so any committee members have a question for you. But let me just clarify a couple of points that you went through. So without folks going through this program, did you say the rate of recidivism was up to 80%?
Yeah, up to 80%. And the national average for rearrest in general is 67% within 3 years. Our guys are at 20%, and that's anybody. Since we work with people that are at the highest risk of rearrest, our guys are trending higher than that. And our guys are at 20%.
And I think you said you opened up a new site, which will be the second site that you
Second
have,
site.
and a new site in Columbia. And $230,000 in sales. That's pretty impressive, Amy. It really is well done.
We did well, and we don't have anybody on marketing for marketing and sales. We're getting ready to hire a marketing and sales person. So our goal is to get that number up. We think we can get it up with having no marketing staff and doing that well. We think we can get that up.
Excellent. So, Council, any of members of the committee have a questions for Amy and what she's been doing? Councilmember Seekings.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for coming and giving us an update as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the support.
Absolutely.
We couldn't have done it without the city.
Great.
Mr. Mayor.
So thank you, Amy, also from me for your efforts. They've been remarkable. I hope
Yes, sir.
Mayor Benjamin took your call.
He did. Thank you.
Oh, great. So with that increased income, I'm just wondering locally, does that increase your capacity to run a few more folks through the program on an annual basis?
It potentially can. Right now, our print shop still doesn't, I mean, it barely breaks it. We're in like not even a break even because we hire so many men to work in our print shop. Our payroll is just so high. That's why we're trying to get it up just to offset the cost of the actual program. Mm-hmm.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah. We're getting pretty close to capacity here in Charleston.
Great,
Yeah.
great. So I was thinking about you the other day. I was in Atlanta and they have a similar program, not for folks coming out of jail, but just for folks that have been experiencing chronic homelessness and helping get them back into the workforce. But many of the same style classes and training that you have before they go back to work, they were also engaged in. And if you're going to be in town, I think it's a week from tomorrow, the folks from Georgia, from this, they call it Georgia Works, are going to be here. And I'd love for you to meet them and trade some information ideas back and forth.
That sounds good. Is it the 18th, a week from Wednesday, this Wednesday, next Wednesday?
A week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow, the 17th. Mhm.
Yeah, in the afternoon. I'll have Liz get in touch with you to set up a time.
Okay, I just put it down on my calendar.
Great, thank you.
Sounds good.
Councilmember Shealy, any questions for Amy?
No, but thank you for all your work, Amy, all your incredible work and what you're doing. We appreciate it. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the support. We really appreciate it. All my men appreciate it.
I see Councilmember Rappel has logged on and he's not a member of our committee, but Councilmember Rappel, do you have any comments or questions for Amy and the work she does maternity leave?
I appreciate the opportunity, but I'm just listening in and sounds like it's a wonderful program and keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Chief Reynolds, anything that you had to ask or add to what Amy's doing?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I'm just such a fan of Amy's and her. She's kind of cracking the code on something not many people around the country are able to do. She's put together a team of amazing people. I miss seeing you. I don't see as much during this COVID year and with everything else that we've had going on. And we've focused a lot on, of course, arresting people, frankly, for some of the small number of offenders that are responsible for violent crime. But at the same time, we have to disrupt the pipeline to prison. We talk about it a lot. Amy's actually doing it successfully. And I have so much respect for the men that participate in her program who I've met. And to see the real life stories, the success stories that she's achieving. And you look at the return on investment just from a fiscal perspective, there's a huge return on investment when you think about these men who really were stuck in that cycle and who now are working and are productive members of society. And I've met them and they're mentoring each other, they're mentoring other men. So just huge compliments, huge kudos to Amy and the fact that you're trying to help people. I know in Chicago and people all around the country are paying close attention to what you're doing. I'm very thankful for in particular, your leadership and what you're doing with your team.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
So, Amy, when we last checked in with you some time ago, there were some issues that you were running some roadblocks with other jurisdictions. Have those been smoothed over yet? Have you got any more cooperation? Because right now, your main referral is with the city of Charleston, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, we have moved into the private sector for job placement and have had so much luck there. I mean, just so much success. Even during COVID, the majority of our people now are being placed in private manufacturing companies, and our employment outcomes are really fantastic. I mean, like 90% of our guys are staying 180 days or more, and that's 2019 to 2020.
That's good.
So if we can get the guys here, we can get them engaged, we can get them on a job, we're seeing success with them.
Well, Amy, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I know you passed the infancy stage of all this. It's a veteran program now. When I first met you at the County Bar Association, and you started off with Chief Mullen and Joe Riley. So you're beyond that stage. You're seasoned program and
Starting to mature.
Yes, and we're good to hear that the national recognition is coming in your direction. So
Thank you. I appreciate it. And hopefully one day we'll be able to host everybody for a tour again.
we'll love that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
We appreciate it. All right.
Thanks, Amy.
Everybody. Bye.
So I think the next 3 items are maybe the Steve Rumlin show. Steve, you were online with us. There you are.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be much of a show, but the first item is our 2021 Housing Authority Unit Officer contract with the Charleston Housing Authority. We provide them with 4 officers, 2 from Team 1, 1 from Team 2, 1 from Team 4. They reimburse us for 2 of those officers at the rate of $13,260, and the other 2 officers at the rate of $56,041. They work from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. on a rotating schedule, Monday through Thursday one week, and then they're Friday through Monday the next. And they all work together. We used to provide them with a supervisor, and they used to compensate us for that as well. But this year, we're not, or this new contract, there is no supervisor. So that frees up that supervisor to do other things in the department. And this all falls under our community-oriented policing division. And so Captain Thompson is the captain over that. So are there any questions with regards to that contract? Otherwise, everything else is pretty much the same as it has been in the past contracts.
And just one more time, Steve, I missed it. How many officers are involved with this total?
4 officers.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve this agreement memorandum of understanding between the city and the Housing Authority?
So moved.
Is there a second? So here's a second. Okay. Any questions for Steve or any discussions further from what he's presented for us today? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye, the ayes have it. Okay, Steve, item number 5 is the agreement with Justice Innovation Lab.
Right. So this is a group. I actually looked them up online. They've got a pilot program going with the solicitor's office right now where they're analyzing their data to reduce any racial disparities in the prosecution of cases. And so they're also going to work with us, and primarily what the contract addresses is they're going to help us analyze traffic stop data for racial bias. They're going to help us evaluate data collection practices for traffic stops against national standards. They're going to recommend policy changes to improve traffic stop data collection and evaluation. They're going to recommend policy changes based on traffic stop analysis with the goal of reducing racial disparity in traffic enforcement outcomes. And at the end, they're going to produce a publicly available research product which presents their analysis and their recommended changes. So this is all in accordance with the recommendations of the racial bias audit. And we did have some issues with our data analysis and collection of data because we were working across different systems. So they're going to help us hopefully get over those hurdles and analyze our data and then present it to, of course, to council and then in the public as well.
Okay, very good.
And
Is there a
there's no
motion?
cost. There's no cost associated with this contract either.
Is there a motion to approve item number 5?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second again.
Okay, so any questions for Steve or for Chief Reynolds about this contract and the work that is within the scope of this contract dealing with data collection and I think fulfillment of the CNA requirements, it sounds like to me, part of that project. Councilmember Shealy or Seekings or Mayor?
I've got a question for, I guess, for Steve. This is a no-cost contract?
That is correct. I've asked several times just to confirm that with Wendy is the person that had primarily negotiated this with the company. Again, if you go on their website, what they're doing with the solicitor's office is a pilot program. So I think they're looking to work with the city of Charleston and the solicitor's office, and then go out to other jurisdictions eventually and do the same.
Have you met anybody from this company? Do we know anything about them other than what you found online?
I have not personally, but like I said, Wendy Stiver was the one that was negotiating with them. The chief may have some information as well.
Yeah, I had about an hour long conference call with a couple members of their team, the lead and who's a former AUSA, and they have some good experience, some good creds. My biggest thing is managing expectations. Everything that Steve just described is a huge, heavy lift. They're going to get us started, and they're going to be a good asset. And a lot of our the work that Wendy's been doing is leveraging partnerships. I mean, we have some funds, as you know, for some partnerships that we're developing and entering into, but a lot of our efforts will be in working with other SMEs and people that have nonprofits and other organizations that are doing this work that have other funding sources. And this group has some significant other funding sources. And so we're excited about this partnership. Wendy's done some vetting and we'll see where it goes. It's a big lift. It's a heavy lift. It's a good start.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Seekings, any further questions for the chief or for Steve?
Nope.
Councilmember Shealy?
No, I don't have anything. Thanks.
Mayor?
Well, I've heard for all along since we started looking at the racial bias audit and traffic stops that the data and analyzing the data and collecting it was a real bugaboo, a problem area, because the state requires certain format and we have a certain format and they conflict with each other. They don't track the same things. So it's never been an easy lift to, we can't punch a button and just have this data fold out. So in my opinion, any objective help we can get to move us in the right direction there is a plus. So I think it's a good thing.
So Steve or Chief, what would be the next step with this data collection once they finish this pilot program? Will we be expected to call on another company to then analyze this for us, or they're collecting the data, then they're analyzing it, and then what happens next?
There's so much more to this conversation, and the mayor hit on a few things. There's a lot of disparate data that's not talking to each other. Some of it at the state level, we can't even access. It exists, but we can't get it into the format that would be of benefit to us. Of course, 2019, our data is much different. So it's year-to-date comparisons, not as useful. So we got to pick which years we're going to look at. So it's easy to say you have disparate numbers. It's not easy to say, what does that actually translate to? And looking at our how we deploy our traffic division. It's the number one complaint. It's the number one loss of life. It's the number one quality of life issue. It's the number one cost in terms of property damage, personal injuries, et cetera, et cetera. So traffic will continue to be a very high priority for the police department. In fact, we need to do more when it comes to traffic, not less. But as we do that, we need to make sure that we have policies. So they're going to look at our policies, practices, protocols. So it's not just the data, but where there's disparate numbers, are we focused on things that are going to actually reduce the collisions, reduce the number of deaths and fatalities, have an impact through education, engineering, enforcement, and a variety of different techniques to actually define a superordinate goal, and that is to reduce collisions and improve quality of life, improve the flow of traffic. And so, very complex topic. They're going to crack that open, and they have some experience with that, and they'll begin to look at what data sets we need to look more closely at and why disparate numbers are important. And does that mean that we need to be doing things differently? We've made a lot of pivots over the last year and a half. So more to come. Good questions. I don't have all the answers, but that's what they're going to help us sort through.
Thank you for that explanation, Chief. That's very helpful. All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of approving this agreement with Justice Innovation Lab, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, very good. All right, and Steve, I think you got the last item, item number 6, an ordinance to amend what's vacant buildings, I believe.
Yes, sir. This is Code Section 21-54. The two amendments are to Section A. What we've done is we've clarified and broadened the definition of a vacant building. It used to be, or it currently is, a unoccupied and unsecured or boarded building. It would now be a unoccupied or an unsecured building, which will give us the ability, if there are people that are staying in an unoccupied building, we can put them on trespass and move them on from that location. And we've got some complaints over time regarding people staying in those vacant buildings. So we're trying to address that issue. And then Section G requires the owner of a vacant property to post a trespass sign. And then they will also give the police department permission to enforce that trespass. And so again, if there are people staying in a building that aren't supposed to be there and the owner lives in another city, the police can address that by moving the trespassers out from the vacant building.
So Steve, matter of clarification with us, as I went back and reread this, and we have a lot of this in Charleston. Some people have like a second home in Charleston. They may be gone for 6 months or so. Does that fit into that category?
Yeah, there's a specific exemption for second homes that actually Susan Herdina had put in there. And so those types of properties are exempted from the definition of a vacant building.
Okay.
So as long as you have your home secured and other people can't get in there, you can have a home that's unoccupied in the city without running afoul of this ordinance.
Very good. I entertain a motion to approve the amended ordinance regarding vacant homes, vacant buildings.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Any further questions for Steve or Susan about this proposed amended ordinance? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Steve, we appreciate you ran through those pretty quickly and very succinctly. Thank you for doing that for us. So the next item of business is to get an update from the Municipal Court. I received a printout of the a PowerPoint presentation, and is Judge Flores with us yet?
No, Judge Flores isn't gonna be on the call today. She's covering court in place of Judge Byrd today.
I'm sorry, she's covering court for who?
Judge Byrd, so Judge Byrd could be present for this. This is her first Public Safety Committee meeting that she was able to attend.
Well,
So
we're glad to have Judge Byrd with us, but I needed her to be present as well. And I thought when we set this up, I wanted to make sure all the judges were available and fit their schedule. How much longer was she going to be on holding court? Do you know?
I'm not sure how long the next session is gonna last. Yeah, she volunteered to cover court for Judge Byrd today. So we have judges in for her.
Well, I wanted to have everybody present. I thought we were pretty clear on that when we set these meetings. We need to have all of our judges available if they want to attend, and particularly in the position that she holds, it's kind of critical that she be involved in these meetings. So I'm a little disappointed she's not here, so I have some questions for her. And we'll follow back up with her later. So who's going to do this PowerPoint presentation? And honestly, what we just need to do is just sort of give us an update on our numbers of where we stood from a year ago. And I'll ask some questions for Judge Ferguson and Judge Byrd a little bit later, but you
I
can.
have an update for you, Councilman Shade.
Okay,
I just have to share my screen. Hold on one second.
all right.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm starting with slide 4. For you to see that I included our new judges, Judge Byrd and also Judge Ferguson. They've been included on the organizational chart. Then I'll scroll down to slide 23, which gives you an update of where we are collectively with the DUI cases and with the non-DUI pending cases. So as of October 30th, 2020, this is collectively from year 2017 up until October 30th, 2020. So as of October 30th, there are 153 jury trial pending cases and 277 non-DUI jury pending cases, which totals 430. And also there are 153 DUI defendants and 230 non-DUI defendants, which totals 383 defendants. In slides 24 through 27, it gives you a breakdown of each year from 2017, 2018, 2019, and the cases that were filed in 2020 up until October 30th. Would you, Councilman Shea, would you like me to go through that so you can see the breakdown, or?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, please.
Okay, so this is where we are for 2017. We have 1 non-DUI case and 1 defendant. We have no pending DUI cases or defendants for the year 2017. For 2018, we have 19 non-DUI jury trial cases pending with 14 defendants and 8 DUI pending DUI jury trials with 8 defendants. 2019, we have 65 non-DUI jury trial cases pending with 50 defendants and 41 DUI cases with 41 defendants pending. And this is where we are for jury trials for 2020. 192 cases for non-DUI and 165 defendants for non-DUI and 104 cases for DUI jury trial cases and 104 DUI defendants. We didn't discuss livability in the past because there wasn't, when this first came about, you all requested for, the backlog to show where we were. But I just thought I would still just add where we were with livability in short term. So this gives you an overview of where we are for as of October 30th for livability in short term, even though it's really not considered to be a backlog in those cases. And then would you also like to see the breakdown of where those cases are for the next several slides, or do you just want to focus on the DUI and non-DUI?
Up to you, Peter.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Councilmember Seekings, I'm sorry.
I said it's up to you. I'm kind of interested in where we are in the criminal cases.
Yeah. Well, just go through the rest of the criminal cases, Ms. Cofield, if you don't mind.
The livability in short term. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
As of October 30th, 2020, there are 35 short-term rental jury trial pending cases and 14 livability jury trial pending cases, which totals 49. And there are 10 short-term rental defendants and 12 livability defendants, which totals 22 defendants. There weren't any cases listed for 2016. There weren't any listed for 2017 and I apologize, there weren't any listed for 2017. In 2018, there are 10 cases for short-term rental, 1 defendant, and 0 livability for that year. And for 2019, 7 short-term rental and 5 defendants, and 4 livability cases and 3 defendants. And for 2020, 18 short-term rental cases and 4 defendants, and 10 livability cases and 9 defendants. And that concludes the all of the pending jury trials that we have in the court.
If you would go to, I think it's slide number 11.
That was for almost a year ago. That was our first Public Safety Committee meeting on October 18th, 2019.
Okay. So we had at that time 396 defendants with jury trial cases pending. Since then, we've had a thing called a coronavirus and a shutdown of our jury trials, I think, beginning in March.
That's
right. So, so we had 542 cases pending. And then what would be the next slide to give us then the 2020 breakdown? Would give us a good visual on that.
2024.
So taking a slide, would it be the comparable slide for the 2019 numbers, compare that with the 2020 numbers? That's what I was looking for.
Are you referring to what I just provided you with, or?
I think it would be slide 23.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this gives the total.
Right, there you go. You found it. Okay. So that, I just wanted to do sort of compare and contrast with that. So there are a total of 450 pending jury trial cases compared to where we were a year ago with 396. Is that right?
It's 430.
430.
There's 34 more than there were a year ago.
That's right. That's I was trying to compare apples with apples is what I was trying to show. Okay. All right. So council members, do y'all have questions for where we stand with this? Councilmember Seekings?
Well, I'm just assuming that we haven't had any jury trials since March, right?
That would be correct.
That is correct.
So clearing the docket of jury trials is virtually impossible.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Do we have internally
I don't know if one of the newer judges wants to speak on behalf of cases being resolved. I mean, it's possible that they could be resolved, but just not with a jury trial at this time.
Right. So can you, I can't see who else wants to raise their hand and talk, and there's some background noise as well. If you are not talking, please mute your microphone. Hang on one second. And let me try to get the screen back up so I can see everybody on here, so I can call on you if you got a question. Give me 1 second. Yes, sir, Councilmember Seekings.
Well, so I guess my question really is one of administration, and I do wish Judge Flores was with us. Have you all been working internally on a plan to move cases once we sort of get beyond COVID and we can bring juries back and we then have some bargaining power for our prosecutors and we're back to normal to sort of, I mean, one of the things when we went through the interviews for the newly seated judges, I know all of us were interested in sort of how we're going to manage our docket and how we're going to move cases forward, doing pre-trials and all that. Have we got a plan in place for when things ease up and y'all have access to people to sit on juries and defendants can come back into courtrooms and all that, so we can move things along?
Let me just sort of jump in quickly on that, Councilmember Seeking. So the Chief Justice issued an administrative order on September the 25th, 2020, requiring all municipal summary court judges to come up with a plan to reconvene jury trials. And I understand, Susan, are you with us? Susan Medina, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so I understand that a plan had been prepared. You want to walk us through that process of what you understand with that proposed plan?
Yes. So, and I'll ask Lakeisha to talk about the details, but basically court administration requested the municipal court to submit a plan by a certain deadline of how they intended to start hearing jury trial cases again, but in a way that was consistent with health and safety. And so that plan, court administration with Judge Rico Flores, and I believe the input of all the judges, was put together and submitted to court administration several weeks ago. I've reviewed the plan, and Lakeisha also sent it to our in-house safety experts, Jan and Rick, who agreed with the plan. Said it was consistent with the city's standards for protecting health and safety of our employees. And Lakeisha and Judge Flores received a few, what I would consider minor comments to the plan on Friday. But subject to making those changes, which we can easily do, we should be in compliance with the court's direction and be ready to start jury trials soon. And if you would like some more details on that, I think Lakeisha can speak to that.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that if we're going to be talking about the court and how it's going to be moving forward, we probably have an idea of how that plan is going to be implemented, so we can take these numbers not in a vacuum and see how we're doing the next time we get together again.
I'm happy to shed some light on that. Ms. Cofield, if you want to go ahead and
hold on a second, one at a time. Hang on a second. So, Councilmember Seeking, and that's what my concern has been with this. And I do have a copy of the plan, and I've talked to Susan Medina about it as well. So, what my concerns were with the plan was that making sure that everybody had an opportunity to review it, make sure the judges had an opportunity to review it and weigh in on it, including Ms. Medina's office and our city officials, so they know if it was in compliance with the city's overall plan dealing with COVID-19. So I just heard Susan mention to us is that it's got preliminary approval. Is that correct, Susan?
That is.
Yes. And Lakeisha, you can, if you want to speak to that, court administration made several, what I would consider minor comments to the plan. But Lakeisha, if you want to go into more detail, that would be great.
Yes, and just to comment on something you just mentioned, Councilman Shade, the plan was done collectively with all of the judges, including myself. So it wasn't just me that did the plan, but it was a collective effort. And I will also add that since it's been submitted to court administration, I have spoken with Renee Lipson because I knew that Rick and Jan needed to review it. So as the court, we have to make sure that we're complying with what court administration asks of us, because they will be the ones to approve it or deny it. And as Susan stated, when I met with Rick and also with Jan, they didn't have any issues with the plan as well. So although we have to comply with what court administration says, we also have to make sure we're complying with what the city expects of us, you know, when we do reopen for jury trial. But
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So when will has a plan has not been approved, or it has been approved? That's sort of.
It has not been approved yet. Renee Lipson sent it back on Friday. Well, we received it, I think it was on Friday morning. from Judge Flores with 3 things that needed to be amended. One being sidebars should be done to maintain social distance, making sure the microphone and witness stand was cleaned in between, people having contact with it, and also making sure that exhibits were pre-marked. So those were 3 things that she said that needed to be amended in the jury trial plan.
So when are we anticipating the plan being approved?
I am not for certain, but I can find out how long it would take Renee Lipson to approve that plan and let us know when it has been approved. To my knowledge, the amended version has not been resubmitted. I haven't received notification that it's been resubmitted with those corrections. But I can find out and I can get back with you as soon as I know.
Okay. Any other council members have questions for? Yes, sir, Mr. Seekings.
I don't think you understood my question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I get that we need to get our plan approved. Once the plan is approved, what is our plan internally for moving these cases forward and getting this backlog down? That's my question.
I got that, and I do understand the question. I just wanted to find out first where we were with this plan, and then what is and we'll hear from the judges in a few seconds to hopefully give you a better answer to that question. I share the same concerns that you do. So, judges, we appreciate y'all being here with us. Judge Morrison, hate to call you the senior member of this bench. But, I don't think Judge Maloney would mind me doing that. But
no, not a bit. Go ahead.
So, Judge Morrison, I'm gonna go down the list, guys, and for your input and your questions, and but we'll go with seniority first. So, Judge Morrison, you're the head cheese over there, so you give us shed some light on our questions. And I'll note now that Councilmember Saffron has joined us, and Councilmember Shealy is in with us as well. So let them pop in at some point. So Judge Morrison, anything you can share with us and help shed some light on this? You're muted. Morrison, you're muted. We can't hear you. Judge Morrison, you have to unmute yourself.
All right, how about now?
That's a lot better. Thank you.
Okay. To go back to Councilman Seeking's question, we've been operating safely since March. We've wiped the courtroom down. We've marked off places where people can and cannot sit. And we've had a bailiff keeping track of things. And when our jury trial plan is approved, and I'm sure that it will be, because the changes they recommended, or the things they wanted in there, were things that we were doing anyway. They just hadn't been put in the plan, such as wiping down the podium and wiping down the witness stand and that. And so we haven't had any jury trials, but we're ready to go as soon as this plan is approved. I think Judge Ferguson, I know he's anxious to get started, and we can start sending out notices and having jurors come in and start, handing trials. As you well know, being trial lawyers, we've had a lot of requests for jury trials simply because they know they're not going to be called anytime soon. And a lot of these things have, and that's why you see a few more jury trial requests. But Judge Ferguson has been working diligently, trying to get rid of these things. And, so we're moving along. There have not been any real glitches as far as I can see. I think things are moving along very, very smoothly. And we're holding court, and we're getting rid of cases as fast as we can. And a lot of the defense lawyers have been very cooperative. Some not, as you can imagine. But I think that's where we are. And so we're moving as fast as we can, according to the Supreme Court guidelines.
And just for the rest of the committee's edification, I mentioned to you a memo that was issued in September. So Justice Beatty did issue a memorandum back in March sometime that gave guidelines for how courts are to be administered. So Councilmember Seekings and I are very familiar with those, and I'm sure Councilmember Pell is too. But for our non-lawyer members of our committee, just to be aware that there were very strict guidelines as to how court was to be conducted in person or virtually. Judge Maloney, are you still with us?
I am. I dropped off, but I heard a good bit of Judge Morris's discussion, and I would agree with what he said. Don't forget that we continue to do pretrials on all the jury cases, especially in livability court. We've had a big spike because of short-term rental cases, and frankly, a lot of jury trial requests on the mask ordinance, oddly enough. And I know those are disguised continuance requests, so we're going to continue to move forward on those, hold a jury trial, a pretrial term, even if we don't have this jury trial plan approved by the Supreme Court, and we'll move a lot of those cases along.
Thank you, sir.
All right. You're welcome. Sorry, I had to dial back in.
That's okay. We're going to go to Judge Byrd, then to Judge Ferguson for their input and comments. And you can tell us a little bit about your experience, Judge Byrd and Judge Ferguson, and how it's been working out so far for you all. And we're here to assist y'all and make sure that this is these numbers are getting down, and that y'all got the support that you need. And we're working towards that ultimate goal here. So, Judge Byrd, you want to give us your insights and comments so far?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman. I have not had an opportunity to preside over a jury trial term yet. However, I did have a pretrial term with Greg Voigt, one of the contract prosecutors who handles the jury trial dockets for the prosecutor's office. And even just last week during that pretrial term, we got a lot of things resolved. If they were not resolved last week, they were continued so that a defense attorney could get their client's plea affidavit and rescheduled to put pleas on the record. We also continued some matters that we now know for sure are going to be a trial. We were able to go ahead and start a preliminary priority docket for the trial term the week of February the 1st. So we were kind of doing double duty. We were resolving the cases we could resolve, and we were going ahead and preparing a trial docket for the next jury trial term that at least I will be presiding over with Mr. Voigt. So, as Judge Morrison pointed out, we are actively moving cases. And once our jury trial procedure is approved by court administration, we'll be ready to go. If you've had an opportunity to see the jury trial policy or plan that Julie Armstrong put out for general sessions and common pleas, it's actually very similar. I'm not aware that any of us consulted with any of the general sessions and common pleas court judges. However, it does sound like we all had similar ideas or on the same page. So I think that what we have gotten approved thus far, and after just adding in those little amendments, we'll be in a good position to actually try the cases that need to be tried and put pressure to resolve the ones that need to be resolved.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, Judge Ferguson, I know you want to jump out of the gate and talk, but
All right, I'm always chomping at the bit, and I apologize for.
Yes, you are, and that's all right.
But like Councilman Seekings, he as he shows his excitement towards wanting to get these cases resolved, so do I. And I want to do a great job and make sure the committee is happy with our work. The first thing I want to kind of give the committee just a couple of details about how I see us moving cases in light of COVID. And of course, it's got to be, it's got to follow, one, the rules of court and as well the ethical requirements and the constitutional rights of our defendants. But what I like to do, or what I think is effective, is taking pleas by Zoom and over the telephone. I think that can be done in municipal court, specifically when there is a represented defendant. For example, you've got a defendant who is in who is over the age of 65 and maybe have a pre-existing condition, and it isn't quite safe for them to come into court, but they are willing to plead. If I'm comfortable that that person's defense attorney knows that that person is ready to plead, willing to plead, and can be available by way of Zoom or telephone conference, I'm going to go ahead and take that plea and move that case. You go through an extra set of questions in your colloquy to make sure the person understands that even though you're over the phone or you're over Zoom, that this is a court proceeding, it's being recorded by the court, and everything they say, they are saying under oath. But I have found that to be effective in moving some of the cases, particularly the ones where there's a public defender involved. Jason Michael is an excellent public defender, and as you may know, he's got a ton of cases that he needs to move. And I haven't quite looked at the numbers, but I would bet that the cases that are older are ones that have a public defender, and the public defender just cannot get that client to physically appear in court, but may be able to get that person on the phone. So I think moving a few pleas that way, as long as the court and the parties are comfortable with a Zoom or over the phone type of hearing, it's just like an affidavit, but you've got the actual defendant speaking. So that's a way, Councilman Seekins, that we will do our best to move cases in light of COVID and beyond, since I personally don't see many great strides being taken to get us back to normal. The second thing that I think.
By the way, thank you for that. I mean, that was
Yes.
kind of, and just to interject really quickly, I don't want to get out your train of thought in the way of that, but it seems to me this is a really great learning experience for y'all to see how you can integrate technology when we're all fully up and running again to make you all that much more efficient, so we can move cases faster.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good point. And that leads me into the next thing that we're doing. We're actually having a Zoom CLE with the help of Judge Bird and the other judges. We've scheduled a Zoom CLE for the defense bar, particularly for the DUI court, since it's new, on December 4th at 12:30. It's kind of like a lunch and learn kind of session where Ms. Cofield has graciously agreed to give the members of the defense bar an overview of the court's administrative systems. And I've also got Drew Carroll, who's the president of the Charleston County Defense Attorneys Association, giving a case law update of DUI cases. That's going to be free to our members of the Charleston County Bar, and we'll be able to introduce myself, Judge Bird, Shannon Elliott, who's also on this call, the new members of the city municipal court, and also lay out some expectations about what can be done to move things along in this unique situation we find ourselves. Quite frankly, and now I'll quit talking, but quite frankly, we're going to need to get the buy-in of the defense bar in order to move these cases. The attorneys on this call, and Judge Maloney and Judge Morrison, accurately described that a request for a jury trial is really just and many times an attempt for a continuance. But if we get buy-in from the defense bar about these new technological systems we can put in place, about this new DUI court, and about how we can move these cases in a way that is palatable to them, then I think we'll have even more success than what we will already have by doing the things that you've heard about previously. So we are not, sitting back just waiting for COVID to pass by. I do think we are actively and excitingly working to get rid of this backlog. And I do think, and in my conversations, and really, I'm new, okay? I've been here since September 1st. But, having a third set of eyes, I have realized that another way to improve, I think, what is already a good system is to open up those lines of communication between the municipal court, the prosecutor's office, and the defense bar. And I'm hopeful that the CLE on December 4th, where everybody just gets together, introduces themselves, and kind of sets expectations and makes recommendations, will help achieve that end. So
well, I think that's an excellent idea. And I'm sure Shade's aged out of his CLE requirements.
I have.
I certainly haven't yet. So if you'll send me a link, I think I'd like to join in and listen in on that.
All right, you remember the Charleston County Bar, right?
Yes, I am.
Well, then it's free for you, and we'll make sure we get that information to you.
Make sure I have that link to Judge Ferguson, because even though, as Councilman Seekin just said, I have aged out, I'll probably want to listen in as well.
We'll be happy to have you, sir. Thank you, both of them.
So judges, I think I did hear this. I want to make sure I did hear it, but we are utilizing pretrial conferences more frequently or more efficiently.
Absolutely. And I think that, as Judge Ferguson mentioned, having opening that line of communication with the defense bar, these pretrial terms, that's something that we just started this past year. 2020 was the first year that we had these terms on our court docket. And unfortunately, due to COVID, we weren't able to have the defense bar in and out of the courtroom to see what a pretrial term looks like versus what a traditional jury trial term looked like. So I think that there is a lack of expectation to a certain extent. And again, like Judge Ferguson said, we're going to have that opportunity to sit down with everybody and talk about these procedures so that hopefully the defense bar will start to utilize these pretrial terms more efficiently. And that will help really weed out the cases that were put on the jury trial docket because it was initially a type of continuance request, or really are a plea and the defense attorney just wanted more time to work the case, and save the jury trial terms for the cases that are genuinely trials.
Very good. I don't want to hog all this. So Councilmember Shealy or Councilmember Saccharin, y'all have any questions for our judges or our wonderful court administrator?
Nothing for me. I'm just listening in, but I do want to just welcome Judge Byrd and Judge Ferguson.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to everybody. I guess my only question is, once we do get approval, how long does it take before we're actually having a jury in place and actually having that court? I mean, how long would that take?
Somebody answer that? Y'all know?
It shouldn't take very long. I mean, as soon as they approve our plan, then whatever jury term is scheduled on our calendar, the court can go ahead and send out the notices to the prospective jurors, the panel. Then they can come in, we can qualify them and start trying cases. So I think it's just a matter of approval. If they approved it today, and let's say there was a jury term scheduled in 2 weeks, that's too short to get notices out. But the following term, we can get them out and we can get started right away.
Is there anything we could be doing now to get these notices ready and just maybe?
No, that comes from the court, from the list of jurors, and they'll send out a notice, and we have to give them enough time for them to get the notice and make plans and everything. So really nothing we can do to speed that up other than just get the plan approved and set whatever date is the next term. So we'll be ready to go as soon as they approve it. That's my understanding of court administration as Chief Justice. That as soon as the plan is approved, then we have the okay to go ahead and start with jury trial.
Thank you.
Judge Maloney, did you want to chip in on anything with that line of questions?
No, I think that the other judges have covered it fairly well, and I've certainly am glad we have Judges Byrd and Emmanuel. Y'all are doing a great job. I'm excited about the CLE, and I want to participate. I think we're all working well together. I would say that I mentioned to the mayor, and I know Lakeisha has asked for some audio visual aid in the DMV area. I don't know whether you've got that on your agenda, Councilmember Shade, but we need to have some way to communicate effectively out of the courtroom and into the old DMV space in the building. It's very confusing when you're trying to run court. I know in livability court, it's been particularly confusing and difficult for me because witnesses are in the other room, but the case is called. So we need to have it at a minimum audio. And I think there was some attempt to even do audio and visual. Other than that, I think we've pretty much covered everything that needs to be covered. Other judges have.
So Ms. Cofield, can you enlighten us a little bit more about that and using the DMV facility and what we're trying?
Yes, I've been working with IT Initially, they did, Lynn, he got a quote, but to have an actual monitor inside of the DMV and in the courtroom, it would be better cost effective if we just did audio. So that's something that's being worked out. So I think it would be more cost effective if we just do the audio. So when there's a defendant, a victim, or witness that's ready to be, called into the courtroom, the judge can just call their name over the intercom and it will go right into the DMV, and that person or people will be able to enter the courtroom at that time. Because right now we just have staff that's walking back and forth to get people into the courtroom when their case is called. And or in addition to, we have to make sure we don't exceed the spaces available in the courtroom for people to be able to safely sit and social distance. So that is something that's being worked out, but I don't believe we're gonna get the monitors based on the cost. But the intercom will be the next best thing. So at least that would be a better way for the judges to, get people in and out of the courtroom a little bit quicker versus staff going back and forth.
So the DMV space is being used as a holding facility. Is that what I understand?
Yes, it is for right now.
And so the audio would just serve as sort of a, the Baskin and Robbins number 55, you're now being served kind of thing.
That is correct. But I will tell you one thing, one good thing, office people, they're out here in the court this week. They're inputting new AV systems, so there'll be a better sound system in both of the courtrooms by the end of this week. So we are making some progress to get the courtrooms up to date as far as, what we need.
I meant to ask this to you earlier. What is the age of the oldest case still pending for a jury trial?
2017 on the report.
2017.
Well, thank you.
2017, and it's one case, one defendant.
That's not so terribly bad. All right.
I also, Judge Maloney, I think I saw on the stats that we were given on the backlog of jury trial requests for the short-term rentals, there's 10 cases and one defendant. Is that one that's going to?
That's right.
Is that going to have to sit there until we can assemble a jury, or is that one that we can resolve?
That's probably one that will be resolved. In that case, I'm familiar with that one.
I
It's
figured
mainly a function of money. It's a function of money.
Yeah.
I mean, the city's taken a real hard-nosed position, and that's fine. And most defendants, when they come in, know they're going to have to pay the full fine. That's the only way the ordinance is going to work. So I think that the lawyer in that case asked for the jury trial just to allow his client some time to get the money together.
Gotcha.
It's a little frustrating for me. I wish that the lawyers would at minimum come to court, but they just are faxing in these jury trial requests. It's just frustrating, but we'll work through those. We can work through those. Those are not legitimate jury trials. That ordinance, the SDR ordinance, is very well written and very easy to follow. And the city, really, the staff has done a great job of presenting those cases. Carolyn Blue prosecutes those. She keeps up with them. She's in court every session we have. And that case will go away.
Condolences by the county.
What's that?
I'll have to look at it.
I'm sorry, someone had a comment. Any other questions for anybody? Any other thoughts? So I think what we want to hear back from, if you could report this either through Susan's office to tell us whether or not the plan has been approved, when can it go into effect? Because the comments that y'all made earlier on is right on point. That is, people request a jury trial knowing that in this COVID environment, we can't have a jury trial. It's going to be delayed forever and a day. So once that plan is approved and implemented, I think it's going to be a wonderful tool to get y'all to move some of these cases even further along. So I'd like to hear back as soon as we can as to whether or not the plan has been approved and when you expect to start calling juries into jury trials. I think that's important for the committee to know how that's panning out. Susan, did you want to introduce one of our new members of our courtroom family?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, again. Judge Ferguson mentioned Shannon Elliott, who has joined us this afternoon. And we're very, very pleased to have her as our new deputy prosecutor, replacing Judge Byrd. And some of you may know Shannon, but she joined the solicitor's office, Scarlett's office, in 2009 and has worked her way up the ladder, so to speak, and most recently was a team leader in the solicitor's office. She's handled during this time probably on average 350 to 450 cases per year. She's handled everything from child abuse and neglect cases to general sessions cases for North Charleston, and in between has worked with a number of municipalities on their general sessions cases, including the city of Charleston. So we feel very fortunate to have her. She has been with us a few weeks and is very familiar with the court and has been doing a great job. So I just wanted to make sure that all the committee members knew her name, and and I hope you'll join us in welcoming her. She's a great addition to the city's legal team. So thank you.
I think that was a good find, Susan, and I think Shannon and I butted heads a couple of times when she was at the solicitor's office. So glad to have her on board.
Thank you.
Okay, but we have gone through this agenda a lot quicker than I thought we were. Appreciate that. Chief Reynolds, any other comments, or Mike Jaluta? I know that Chief Courier's got called away. I don't want to leave you all out. If there's anything from the fire department or the police department you needed to update us on, or other comments.
I have nothing additional. Thank you. I can tell you the court's support that we've gotten from the Public Safety Committee, from the judges, from Lakeisha, from Susan and her office, and from everybody involved. I think this will be a significant assistance for everybody as we continue to kind of focus on some of the backlog and just some of these cases. I think as the city stands back up again and gets busy and back on its feet, back to normal traffic, I believe that we're going to continue to have an increased presence when it comes to traffic and enforcement, and not just DUIs, but a whole variety of different areas. So I'm very thankful for the support from everybody.
Very good. Mike, anything from the fire department you want to update us on, or?
No, sir, I don't have any additional updates at this time.
Okay, thank you. Well, Lakeisha, I know you've got a tough job. It's tough enough in a normal environment with COVID-19 being thrown into the mix. It's just throwing everybody a curveball. My experience through appearing in federal court and general sessions and probate court has been, it's cumbersome at best. It really is just sort of complicated, because we're all trying to maintain the COVID protocol requirements at the same time doing justice. Judge Ferguson mentioned doing pleas over the phone. I was involved in a general sessions guilty plea, waiting for my turn to come up, and the defendant was literally walking down the street as Judge McCoy was questioning him, giving up his constitutional rights. I thought, well, justice has certainly taken a different turn in the 21st century, but we got through that plea just like we did everybody else, and I presume justice was served. So it's a new day, and we're fortunate we have technology. But I do want everybody on this call to be aware that we are here to support you. Our interest is to making sure that justice is being done to all of our defendants, but y'all are being safe in the meantime, that y'all are not subjecting yourselves unnecessarily to being exposed. And at the same time, with all that being said, these cases are being moved with a level of efficiency. So we're here to help. We're here to push you a little bit too. So we want you to know that we're getting more engaged than we had been in the past, and that's been intentional. So we'll follow back up. And Lakeisha, if you can get me that information as to when anything's approved and everything, if you can get that to me, that'd be wonderful. I can supplement our report. Mayor, anything before we adjourn?
Just very briefly, to all the officers of the court here, judges, and particularly our new judges, thank you all for collaborating together. I know it's been an unusual year with COVID-19 and not being able to have the jury trial. So I know once we get past that, y'all are going to help us get caught up. I just want to give you my thanks.
Councilman Shea, may I say something, please?
Yes, sir.
Before we leave, I just wanted to say something because I would be remiss if I didn't. I just wanted to let this committee know that Ms. Schofield has worked diligently on this, and she's doing a great job of the city court. And I just think that the committee should know that she has worked hard, and she has and is doing a good job for the city. And I think everyone should know that. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that to the court and to the committee.
I appreciate you doing that, and I know she's got a real tough job. So keep up the good work, and the cooperation and coordination with all of y'all, from court administration, judges, prosecutors, defense lawyers, is all very critical. And I'm looking forward to the CLE to see how that is received. So thank you all for the fine work, really the fine work. Y'all are public servants, and that's something we all take recognition of. You're here to better our community, and that's critically important to do. So thank you all. We'll stand adjourned. Thank you all for.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.